The night my father signed the papers to remove my name from his will, he didn't know I was standing outside his office door. I hadn't meant to overhear anything. I was home because my mother had called me earlier, her voice shaking, telling me to come quickly. She didn't explain why. When I arrived, the house felt different. Too quiet, too formal. A lawyer's car was parked in the driveway. I was about to knock on my father's office door when I heard my name. "She's made her choice," my father said coldly. "If she wants to live like a stranger, she can inherit like one." The lawyer's voice was calm and professional. "So you're certain you want your entire estate transferred to your son?" "Yes," my father replied firmly. "Everything goes to Adam, my younger brother." I stood frozen in the hallway, my chest tight. It wasn't about the money. It was about being erased. I had spent 28 years trying to earn my father's approval. Top grades, law school scholarship. I even joined his company after graduation, believing that working beside him would finally make him proud. But Adam was always the golden child. He was charming, social, easygoing. My father loved that about him. Loved how Adam made people laugh at business dinners. Loved how effortlessly he fit into high society. I was the serious one, the responsible one, the one who stayed late at the office fixing mistakes. Apparently, I was also the disposable one. I walked away before they could open the door and see me. That night, I didn't confront him. I didn't cry either. I packed a suitcase. When my mother saw me heading toward the door, she whispered, "Please don't make this worse." "I'm not," I replied quietly. "I'm making it clear." I left without saying goodbye to my father. He didn't call. Not the next day. Not the next week. Adam texted me once, "You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. If they thought cutting me out would break me, they underestimated what being ignored your whole life teaches you. It teaches you how to survive alone. For months, I avoided the family business. I resigned formally, sending a short, polite email. My father responded with a single sentence, "Noted." That word hurt more than anger would have. Noted. As if I were just another employee. I moved into a small apartment downtown. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living in the shadow of our last name. And that terrified me. Because without the family name, who was I? For years, I had believed loyalty would eventually be rewarded. That if I proved myself enough times, my father would see me. Now I realized something brutal. Some people don't want to see you. They want to control you. And when you stop being controllable, they replace you. Adam took over my role at the company within weeks. He had no legal training, no real experience, but he had charm. And he had the title, heir. I heard rumors through former colleagues. Contracts mishandled. Deadlines missed. Clients uneasy. But my father defended him publicly. Adam has vision, he told investors. Vision without discipline is disaster waiting to happen. I didn't interfere. Instead, I built something of my own. I joined a competing firm not as a partner, not even as senior counsel. I started lower than my qualifications allowed. People were surprised. "You could have demanded more," my new boss told me. "I want to earn it," I said simply. What I didn't say was this. I wanted success that no one could attribute to my father. The first year was brutal. I worked longer hours than ever. I handled difficult clients. I rebuilt my reputation from scratch. But this time, every achievement was mine. No family name attached. No shadow overhead. One afternoon, a major client requested a private meeting with me. To my surprise, it was one of my father's oldest clients, Mr. Whitman. "I hear you've left your father's firm," he said carefully. "Yes." Why? I considered lying. Instead, I told the truth. Because I wasn't valued there. He studied me for a long moment. "I always suspected you were the backbone," he admitted quietly. That sentence stayed with me. Within 6 months, Mr. Whitman transferred a portion of his portfolio to my firm, specifically under my management. It wasn't betrayal. It was trust. and trust is built slowly. Meanwhile, Adam's mistakes grew larger. A failed merger, a misread contract clause that cost the company millions. Investors began whispering. My father, for the first time, looked tired in public appearances. But pride is a stubborn thing. He still refused to contact me until the lawsuit came. A former client sued my father's firm over Adam's negligence. The case was complicated, potentially devastating, and ironically, it landed at my new firm. When I saw the file and the defendant's name my father's company, I felt something shift inside me. Fate has a dark sense of humor. My boss called me into his office. You have a conflict of interest, he said carefully. We can assign this to someone else. I stared at the folder. For years, I had tried to prove myself to that man. Now I had the chance to defeat him. I can remain objective, I replied calmly. My boss studied me. You're certain? Yes. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, and patient. I knew every weakness in my father's company structure. I knew every corner Adam would cut. I knew exactly where the cracks were. Because I had built half of it, the case moved forward. Court dates scheduled. Documents exchanged. Every time I saw my father's signature on official paperwork, I felt the weight of history pressing against my chest. Adam attended the first preliminary hearing. He looked nervous when he saw me across the courtroom. You're doing this, he asked later in the hallway. I'm doing my job, I replied evenly. You're trying to destroy us. No, I said softly. You did that when you replaced competence with ego. He didn't have an answer. As weeks passed, evidence piled up against their firm. Emails showing Adam ignoring legal warnings, signed approvals without review, financial inconsistencies. Each document felt like another nail in a coffin. I hadn't built but was now closing. My father requested a private meeting before the main trial. I almost declined, but curiosity won again. We met in his office, the same office where he had signed me out of his will. He looked older than I remembered. Withdraw from the case, he said without greeting. I can't. You can. I won't. His jaw tightened. You're my daughter. I almost laughed at the irony. I said quietly, until you decided otherwise. Silence stretched between us. You're punishing me, he accused. I met his eyes steadily. No, I'm holding your company accountable. His voice softened for the first time in my life. You could ruin everything. You already gave everything to Adam, I replied. Remember, that hit him hard. For a brief second, I saw regret flicker in his expression. But regret doesn't undo actions. The trial began 3 months later. And that's when everything truly changed. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not because of the air conditioning, because this was no longer about business. It was about legacy. My father sat at the defense table beside Adam. He didn't look at me when I walked in. Adam did. His expression carried something unfamiliar uncertainty. The opening statements began. Our firm presented the evidence methodically. Financial reports, internal emails, signed approvals. Each document told the same story: negligence, arrogance, and a refusal to listen to professional advice. I didn't need to exaggerate anything. The truth was enough. When it was my turn to speak, I stood slowly. For a split second, I remembered being 16 years old, standing in our living room, trying to explain to my father why I wanted to study law instead of joining a softer profession. You're too emotional for law, he had said back then. Leave the serious decisions to Adam. Now I was standing in a courtroom, dismantling the consequences of his serious decision. I presented the timeline calmly, point by point. No anger, no sarcasm, just facts. Adam was called to the stand on the 3rd day. He tried to defend his choices. I trusted my instincts, he said, without reviewing the legal warning sent by your compliance team. I asked evenly. He hesitated. I didn't think it was necessary. The courtroom murmured quietly. Necessary? I repeated. For a contract worth $42 million. His silence answered for him. Later, my father took the stand. Seeing him there older, proud, but visibly shaken was harder than I expected. He had always seemed invincible to me. Now he looked human. You transferred executive authority to your son despite internal objections. I stated calmly. Yes, he replied. Why? He's my heir. Is inheritance a qualification? His lawyer objected. The judge allowed the question. My father looked directly at me for the first time since the trial began. I trusted him, he said quietly. And did you trust your legal department? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. That pause said everything. The trial lasted 2 weeks. In the end, the verdict was clear. The court ruled in favor of the plaintiff. My father's firm was ordered to pay a staggering settlement large enough to destabilize the company significantly. Reporters waited outside the courthouse. I avoided the cameras. This was never about public humiliation. It was about consequence. As I stepped outside, Adam approached me. You won, he said bitterly. This wasn't a competition, I replied. It always was, he shot back. You just finally decided to play. His words lingered longer than I expected. Had it always been a competition? Or had I simply been trying to earn love that was never conditional for him? My father came out moments later. He didn't speak to reporters. Instead, he walked straight toward me. For a moment, we stood face to face on the courthouse steps. You've proven your point, he said quietly. What point? I asked. That you're capable. I felt something tighten in my chest. I was always capable, I replied. You just refused to see it. The wind moved softly between us. I thought I was protecting the family legacy, he said. By destroying the part of it that worked. I asked gently. He closed his eyes briefly. I made a mistake. It was the first time I had ever heard him say those words. But something inside me had changed. Years ago, that apology would have healed me instantly. Now it felt distant. You removed me from your will, I said calmly. You replaced me in the company. You chose image over ability. I can fix that, he insisted quickly. Come back. Help us rebuild. The offer hung in the air. The old version of me would have accepted immediately to finally be chosen. But I wasn't that person anymore. I already rebuilt, I said softly. He looked at me as if seeing someone unfamiliar. You'd let the family business collapse. I'd let it face the consequences of its choices, I replied. That was the difference between us. He believed legacy was inherited. I believed it was earned. Over the next few months, news about the settlement spread through the industry. Investors withdrew cautiously. Some departments downsized. Adam resigned quietly from his executive role. For the first time in his life, he had to search for a job outside the protection of our father's name. And that changed him more than the courtroom ever could. One evening, months later, Adam called me. I get it now, he said without greeting. Get what? Why you left? Why you fought? There was no bitterness in his voice this time. Failure feels different when no one cleans it up for you, he admitted. I stayed silent. I'm sorry, he added, for taking your place so easily. I hadn't expected that. I hope you learn from it, I said gently. I am, he replied. The hard way. Sometimes revenge doesn't just punish, it educates. My father's company survived but smaller, humbler, no longer untouchable. As for me, my career flourished. The trial elevated my reputation beyond anything my family name ever could have. Clients respected precision. They respected integrity. And most importantly, they respected independence. A year later, I received an invitation to a corporate gala, not as someone's daughter, as keynote speaker. When I stepped onto the stage, I scanned the audience, business leaders, investors, lawyers, and in the back corner, I saw my father. He wasn't at the head table. He wasn't surrounded by admirers. He was simply watching. When I finished my speech, the applause was genuine, not polite, not obligated, earned. After the event, he approached me slowly. "You built something extraordinary," he said. "Thank you," I replied. "I was wrong," he added quietly. "About you, about Adam, about what strength looks like." I studied him for a moment. This wasn't the commanding man from my childhood. This was someone who had been forced to confront reality. "I don't hate you," I said honestly. He looked surprised. "I stopped needing your approval," I continued. "That's the difference." His eyes softened. "You deserved better from me." Maybe I did, but I also deserved to become who I am now. And strangely, his rejection had pushed me there faster than his acceptance ever could have. As I walked away from the gala that night, I realized something profound. The night I overheard him removing me from his will, I thought I was losing everything. In reality, I was being released. Released from trying to earn love through perfection. Released from shrinking so someone else could shine. Released from mistaking inheritance for worth. Revenge, I learned, isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about elevation. It's about rising so high that the people who doubted you have no choice but to look up. My father once believed legacy meant passing everything to his chosen heir. Now he understood something different. Legacy isn't what you give someone. It's what they build without you. And as I stepped into my car, city lights reflecting across the windshield, I felt something I had never felt in that house growing up. Not anger, not triumph, peace, because I didn't need to be written back into his will. I had already written my own future, and this time, no one could erase my name from it.